Imagine someone tells you that to reach God, you need to stop eating meat, give up sex, and start worshiping angels, because without their permission, you can't pass through the gates of heaven. That's exactly what was happening in the ancient city of Colossae. And the letter to the Colossians has a radical response. You don't need any of that because you've already been raised from the dead. So what exactly was going on in Colossae? First, a quick note on where this letter sits. Paul's letters are ordered by length in the New Testament, not chronologically. Colossians appears after Ephesians simply because it's shorter. But what matters isn't where it sits in the Bible, it's the problem it was written to solve, and that problem was a group of traveling religious teachers. Colossians chapter 2 describes itinerant teachers, traveling religious instructors who moved between early Christian communities, arriving in Colossae with a specific program, and they promoted asceticism. That word comes from the Greek for exercise, and means disciplining and denying the body. Concretely, strict food restrictions, abstaining from sex, avoiding luxury and desire, but that wasn't all. These teachers also promoted the worship of angels. Scholars debate whether this meant worshiping angels directly or joining angels in their worship of God. Either way, angels played a central role. The question is, why would anyone combine body denial with angel worship? To understand why these teachers had any credibility, you need to understand how ancient people imagined the universe. Many Jews and early Christians pictured heaven as multiple layers stacked above the earth, 3, 5, sometimes 7. At the boundary of each layer stood spiritual beings called stoicheia, elemental spirits of the universe. These spirits, often identified with angels, control the gateways between layers. To reach God at the top, a soul had to pass through every gate. The teacher's logic followed directly. Asceticism purifies your body and soul for the journey upward. Angel worship gains you passage through each gate. Deny the flesh, honor the gatekeepers, reach God. Now here's where the Colossians author drops the hammer. Chapter 1, verses 19 and 20. In Christ, all the fullness of God was pleased to dwell. Pay attention to that word, all. The author's argument is precise. If the entire fullness of God already lives in Christ and believers are in Christ, then there is nothing left to ascend toward. The heavens have nothing to offer that Christ doesn't already contain. The elemental spirits are irrelevant. The gatekeepers guard gates that lead nowhere you haven't already arrived. Every layer of heaven, every angelic throne, every cosmic power, all of it is already contained in the one you were baptized into. But how can someone already be raised from the dead? The answer lies in an ancient ritual. Like chapter 3 opens with a striking claim. If you have been raised with Christ, seek the things that are above. Notice the tense. The author speaks of death and resurrection as past events for believers, not future ones. The mechanism is baptism. In ancient practice, baptism meant full immersion. You went down into the water, symbolic death and burial with Christ. You came up out of the water, the symbolic resurrection with Christ. The claim is extraordinary. Through this ritual, you have already died and already risen. The journey through the heavens is unnecessary because the destination has already been reached. So if resurrection has already happened, what's left? The author answers in chapter 3, verses 3 and 4. Your life is hidden with Christ in God. When Christ, who is your life, is revealed, then you also will be revealed with him in glory. The key word is hidden. Believers already possess their heavenly status, but it's not yet visible. The only remaining event is the revelation, the unveiling of what's already true. This is a critical distinction. The teacher said believers needed to achieve heavenly status through asceticism and angel worship. The Colossians author says believers already have it. They don't need to attain anything. They need to wait for it to become visible. This claim represents a significant theological shift. In Paul's undisputed letter to the Romans, chapter 6, believers have died with Christ through baptism. But resurrection is still future. They will be raised. Colossians moves the resurrection into the past. Believers have been raised. And this is a bolder claim, and it's one reason scholars debate whether Paul himself wrote Colossians or whether a later follower did. The letter pushes the timeline forward, granting believers now what Romans reserved for later. One more important point, when the author says seek the things that are above, this doesn't mean Christians should be otherworldly or detached. It means they should live in accordance with their already existing heavenly status. Notice the irony here. The passage that sounds most ascetic, seek the things that are above, is anti-ascetic in context. The teachers told believers to deny their bodies to climb toward heaven. The Colossians author says the opposite. You're already there. Stop acting as if you need to earn what you already possess. The ascetic program solves a problem that doesn't exist. Let's pull the whole argument together. The Colossians author faces a problem, teachers promoting asceticism and angel worship. Their logic rests on a cosmology of layered heavens guarded by elemental spirits. The counterclaim, all the fullness of God dwells in Christ. The mechanism, baptism, enacts death and resurrection with Christ. The result, believers have already been raised. The only remaining event, the future revelation of this hidden glory, when Christ returns. Next time you read Colossians, notice how nearly every argument circles back to this one idea that Christ already contains everything, so nothing else is needed. The letter isn't abstract theology. It's a targeted response to a specific crisis. You don't need to starve yourself. You don't need to worship angels. You don't need to climb through the heavens. You've already arrived.